Well, good morning. I would like first to introduce myself. I'm Joshua Fuhrmann, and I was raised and now work on our father's farm in Southern Virginia with my parents, Jack and Kim Fuhrmann. We have been, also my wife, my beautiful wife, and 4 children. They're all right here. Madeline, Brianna, Edmund, Jason, Owen. They all love to help me with the cows, especially the little boys. They like to get out on the four-wheeler and do different things or help with milking or whatever. All the rest of the family as well. I have 8 siblings, and they're all kind of involved working on the farm and in various different things, not necessarily all with the cows. We have chickens and turkeys and dogs and other animals as well. But we have been pursuing natural health in people and began to realize that health in people is directly linked to health in their food, which has helped me to learn about all the things we're going to talk about today. In order to have a healthy cow, that will give your family healthy food. So my mom is now a natural health practitioner, and my sister and dad have health degrees as well. They all teach classes together on the farm about personal health. I have always been more involved in the cow and cow health side of things, so that's why we are here today to talk about cows. I'm going to leave plenty of room for questions at the end. I'm hoping to leave plenty of room for questions at the end, so if you're having questions pop up, feel free to jot them down or just kind of tuck them away, and I'll try to open up the floor for as many questions as we have time for at the end. All right, so first thing I want to look at and talk about is why should we get a family milk cow? And some of the main things that come to mind is it provides food for your family, and also it will be highly nutritious food, healthy, and just a few of those are raw milk, yogurt, kefir, ice cream, cheese, butter, buttermilk, whey, and beef from the calf that they will give you about every 10 to 12 months. So a cow usually reproduces yearly, and a lot of times that'll be a bull calf, and you can make it into beef. If it's a heifer, you can either raise it for another cow or sell it to somebody who might want one. The benefit to your family is big. It is, I mean, it's a job. It's like a chore that you can do together as a family. It's also, it gives you a good regular chore time, right? Because a lot of times these other animals like chickens or different animals, you can just kind of throw some feed out there, check the eggs when you need to. But with the cows, it's every day, sometimes twice a day, depending on what you're interested in. And that is a great thing for especially kids who are trying to kind of learn regularity and things. It will tie you down a little bit, but we'll talk more about calf sharing and the possibility of vacations and stuff in the future. Benefit to your farm is going to be the fertilizers and that they're going to spread on the farm as they move from area to area. Also, disruption. They're going to cause a lot of disruption. They're going to crush grasses when they graze through. They're going to trim the grasses. Whenever they trample an area, it makes it better. They're also really good at spreading minerals and spreading manure around a farm, especially if you're moving them regularly. So one of those things, when I get to talking about minerals, when a cow takes minerals in, usually 90% of that is excreted back onto the land that the cow is on. So if, for instance, your land is lacking in minerals, the cow usually will be able to kind of tell from the grasses they're eating, I need something more. and they'll go to the minerals and they'll get it, and then usually they'll replenish it back into the ground. So sometimes, for instance, on one of my rental farms years ago, when I first started grazing there, they were just sucking down the minerals. And I mean, I could put a 50 pounds of minerals out multiple times a week, and it was gone. And the reason for that was the soil and the grass was extremely deficient. But after a few years of building it back up with those minerals that the cows were recycling, right? I'm down to a pretty normal amount. And so that's something to keep in mind when you're getting into minerals. The workload for a cow, a family milk cow, is going to consist of making sure it has good forage, so moving it daily to fresh grass, or in the wintertime, feeding it good hay. Also, good clean water. You cannot have good healthy cow, especially a milk cow, because obviously they're producing liquid, right? And so they need that high quality liquid. It needs to be clean. It needs to be cool, and there needs to be plenty of it. And so that's one big thing, is the water. And then minerals. That's another big thing, like I mentioned earlier. You cannot skimp on the minerals. You got to make sure it's out there all the time. They always have access to it. I've had times where I missed minerals for just a few days here or there, or a week. Maybe I didn't check on it enough. Maybe I didn't keep an eye on it. And we noticed some health problems developing in our herd pretty much, I mean, within a few days. Just basic, small stuff. But the minute we got back to it regularly, those usually rectify themselves. Because cows are amazing creatures designed by God to thrive on grass, right? And when they are grazing and transforming that into meat and milk, their bodies actually can heal or keep themselves healthy in a lot of ways, and God has created them that way. And so one of the main things I'm going to be talking about this morning is when the cow starts getting into grazing and getting into growing that healthy food for you and your family. She's going to be, let me check my notes here. Well, she's going to be kind of keeping herself going, right? Self-sustaining. And you just have to come alongside and support that cow. Help her to help herself, right? And so another thing I will mention here quickly is about calf sharing. So I'm just kind of going over the basics of cows. If you're interested in getting into them and you kind of have some questions, you just kind of want to know, if I'm getting a cow, what are the things I should be thinking about, or what are the things I should have in mind? So when your cow has a calf, you can do two things. You can either sell the calf or get rid of the calf or bottle feed the calf and just milk her yourself. Or in that case, you have to milk her every day. You cannot skip a day here or there. But what some people do is calf sharing, where they'll keep the calf with the mother, let her raise that calf, and every evening they'll put the calf in a secure location and keep it away from the mother for 12 to 14 hours. Obviously, give it some clean water and hay access and that kind of thing. But what that does is it gives you milk in the morning when you milk that cow. So you can milk, and then you can turn the calf loose, let her finish sucking what the mother has. She can drink throughout the day, put her back up in the evening, milk the cow in the morning, let the cow out, and so on and so on. So with that as part of your farming plan, you can sometimes maybe take a weekend here or there and just let the calf take all the milk, right? So that's something that a lot of small family farms like to do. We mostly just raise some heifer calves for growing our herd or for maintaining our herd. Because we have a small family dairy, we just raise a handful of heifers every year to kind of maintain what we need, or even to maybe grow it if we wanted to provide some cows for other people or different things like that. A2A2, A2A2 in cows. That is a big question that a lot of people are asking. What is A2A2? Why do I have to worry about A2A2? And that's something that maybe some of you haven't even heard of before. But it is a protein in the milk. Let me just read here what I had. It's a type of cow's milk that is more easily assimilated by the digestive system of humans than A1 milk. It's a beta casein in the proteins, and the way that it breaks down in the human gut is easier. So, for instance, like all goat's milk is A2A2, but at some point in the cow line there was a rift, and we have this A1 and this A2, and so you can actually test for that, and I'll explain how I test for it if that's something you might be interested in the future. A2 milk is the original design of cow's milk, which brings healing to humans. A1 milk is a mutation that happens somewhere and produces milk that is harmful to humans. In A2 milk, there is a strand of proteins and amino acids that when they hit the digestive system of a human, they break into individual proteins and amino acids. They then pass through the gut lining into the bloodstream, where they can bring life-giving nutrients to every single organ of the body, including the brain. With A1 milk, there is a problem with 7 of the proteins. They don't break down in the digestive system. They stay together in a healthy gut. This might not be an issue, but the body would notice that this is a mutation and send it out through the chute. This, without letting it pass through the digestive lining and into the blood. But when the infants and elderly and with people that have leaky guts, it is unhealthy gut. These 7 strands enter into the bloodstream, and it wreaks havoc on the body, potentially contributing to diabetes, autoimmune disorders, and it passes the blood-brain barrier and contributes to schizophrenia. If you're interested in more information on A2A2 or A1 or any of that, The Devil in the Milk is a great book that gives a lot of detailed information and really just explains kind of the way that it was discovered and what we can do about it. And there are a lot of ways to handle it in your own cows or in your own herd. And the main thing is testing. So like if you have not tested before, you're interested in testing, the easiest way that we have found is we just pull some tail hairs, 15 to 20 tail hairs out of the bottom of the cow's tail and put them in an envelope, send them to the University of California, Davis testing lab, A2A2 testing lab, and make sure that the cow's hairs are kept individual, and then they'll test them and let you know what the results are. If you were to have a 1A2 cow, you could still breed that cow for an A2A2 offspring. You just would want to breed it to an A2A2 bull. And then there's a possibility, 75% chance you would have A2A2 offspring. We did on our farm about 10 years ago. We found out about it, and we started kind of aggressively culling and breeding towards A2A2, 100% A2A2. So we have actually been 100% A2A2 for about 7 years. So that's kind of an interesting side note, but it is big when it comes to the health of cows, because obviously when we're talking about the health of cows, we're talking about our health, right? We're talking about what we're getting from these cows and how is it affecting us. And I'm sure some of you have heard of the term lactose intolerant. Usually that is an intolerance to A1, the A1 strand that's in all of these conventional dairies. And most of the time, if those people were to just find a local dairy or find an A2A2 cow, a lot of times they can handle the dairy products coming from that. Getting into Grass-fed, 100% grass-fed is a big thing for cows. Cows were naturally designed to thrive and really do well on grass and legumes and the leafy green parts of the plants that grow. Any kind of bovine in the world, that's their main meal. So sometimes they will get grain, sometimes from the seed heads here and there, but they're not always going to be eating just 100% grain. And that's one of the issues with the with conventional farming is they've perverted the cow in a sense by just training it to thrive on grain instead of allowing it to thrive on grass. And that what that has done is really messed up genetics in cows in general. And so you can't really trust just any cow out there. If you're going to get a cow, you can't just go grab a cow because who knows what its ancestry has been like, who knows what it needs. And a lot of times you pull it off of a 100% grain diet and try to throw it on 100% grass, and their stomach really hasn't developed for that. And the bacteria in their stomach don't know how to handle that. And so a lot of times they'll just go downhill. Natural health in a dairy cow is crucial. Most of your common health problems are results of management. When you first get into it, learning, reading, and research and education on the subject will help you when you get started. You can definitely expect more health problems toward the beginning of your farming endeavor because it is a learning curve for you and you will be making mistakes as you get started. Here are a few helpful tips as you are considering getting started on cows or even if you have cows already. Number one is consider that the cure is always simpler than you think. So what I mean by that is when you have a sick cow or when you have a cow that is showing some sort of sick tendencies or that's showing some symptoms, the best thing to do is not freak out or stress or just call the vet right away. Just realize that, okay, this is a problem, right? But it is curable. It can be fixed. It can be rectified. Let's see how we do that. And like I said, it's always simpler than you think in a sense of you might just have to put more minerals out. You might just have to make sure she has cleaner water. You might just have to milk her out better. There's these very simple fixes to a lot and most cow health issues out there, and you don't want to rush to the vet, especially because we're talking about naturally keeping the family milk cow here today, right? If you rush to the vet, the first thing he's going to do is shoot her up with antibiotics, and that's going to kill her gut. That's going to kill all the bacteria in her gut, good and bad. So all that bacteria that she's been building in her gut ever since she was born is gone. And you got to start from scratch, building her digestive system back up and trying to help her learn how to function again, right? So that's the first thing. Second thing, make sure your cow is getting what it needs. Again, basics, like I said, water, clean water, good forage and food, and minerals. Also, milking, obviously, if you are in the milking process with the cow. After that, be sure what the problem is. So diagnose it the best you can with the knowledge you have, or consult a friend or contact that has more knowledge. So what you can do is just look at it, maybe look at your books, maybe ask somebody who knows, or maybe even call somebody like me, or reach out to somebody who maybe knows more, because I don't know how purist most of you are, but I would not hit a cow with antibiotics for any reason. And if I did, I would consider that cow to be a loss. I mean, that cow is pretty much good for nothing. She's not going to make you good, healthy beef. You can't just take her to slaughter now. She's contaminated. And you can't really build her back up to where she was or where she needs to be. So I would say that's never an option for me, and it really just depends on what your interest, where your line is drawn when it comes to health and keeping a family milk count naturally. Once you know the problem, the main thing you can do for almost any sickness is support the body and immune system so that the cow can heal itself. Like I said earlier, a cow is a functioning or organic organism. It's a mammal. It's working towards taking care of itself. And everything about this cow, if she's getting what she needs, she can heal herself. Just like if you get a cold, you aren't going to run to Krispy Kreme and eat a dozen donuts, right? You're going to go get some sauerkraut. You're going to go eat some healthy salads. You're going to drink some tea. You're maybe not going to go drink hot chocolate, because what you're doing is you're trying to support your body to heal itself. You're trying to get rid of this cough as quickly as possible so that it doesn't make any bigger issues, right? So it's the same thing with a cow. Look and see, how can I support this cow to heal herself? And there's a number of different ways you can do that, and I'm going to run through a few of them here. One way to do that is supporting a healthy gut. Like I said, getting back to the gut. And the reason I'm going to keep talking about this is because that's where she's digesting the things you're actually giving her, right? So you can be giving her all this great stuff, but if she doesn't have a healthy enough gut to actually assimilate it and use it, then she's not going to really get anywhere as far as healing herself. So let's see, probiotics in the gut. So one of the best things is apple cider vinegar. I'm sure some of you guys have heard of that. That's really high in probiotics. Another thing is kombucha or kefir, yogurt. All of these different things have high probiotics and high, healthy, good bacteria, right? So that when those go into the gut, they can kind of help jumpstart her as far as giving her energy to digest these other things you're going to be giving her. Also, support the body by giving it the right amount of proteins and fat. So you would do that by giving her really good forage. So you could get her some higher quality hay. You could also get some chaff hay. We feed chaff hay a lot with our cows. That's actually just basically a fermented alfalfa, Timothy grass mix. And you can get it from a lot of different organic places or feed stores. But that has really high proteins in it. It even has some molasses mixed in and different things. And it also has some great probiotics as well because it's slightly fermented. It's not just like your dried alfalfa pellets that don't necessarily have that there. Another thing you can do is flaxseed oil. You can get some flaxseed oil, pour that on top of her feed. And so if you were to do like chaff hay or alfalfa pellets, you could put some flaxseed oil on top of that, put some apple cider vinegar on top of that. They actually love apple cider vinegar if they kind of start getting into it. What that does is it just gives her some fat, really something to go on, especially if she's dealing with a health issue. You don't want her body to just start dropping condition. You don't want her to just start kind of losing it in all these other areas, maybe starting to limp, maybe this or that, because you're building her up. You're keeping her going. You're strengthening her as you go along. And then obviously if you have an obvious infection like mastitis or hoof rot or any other kind of wound with an infection, then you want to take that infection out to the best of your ability. And this can look like milking it out well, soaking it in salt water, packing it with some salve, maybe get some charcoal mixed in there because that has the drawing properties. So the idea is there's an issue. This cow is rotting, right? She's infected There's a problem inside this cow, so we need to get it out of her so then she can heal. If you let that fester and you let that continue, then it's going to metastasize and get a lot worse. And so one of the biggest mistakes people make with injuries, or especially with mastitis, is, oh my goodness, it's hurting the cow. I don't know if I can get all the milk out of there. That milk is infected milk. You leave that milk in there for too long, it gets worse and worse and worse. So the idea is get it out however you need to. I mean, milk it as many times as you want. You can milk her every hour, every 2 hours. The idea is we're pulling this infection out of the cow to give her a chance to heal, right? And it's same thing with a cut or something on the cow, or a hoof rot. Hoof rot usually comes from injury. So, she got a cut, she stepped on a nail, something happened, then some bacteria got in there, then it got infected, right? So now she's limping, her foot's all swollen up. So the same thing with that. You scrape it, you cut it, you dig out the infection, you dig out the dirt, you pull out the nail, whatever you got to do. Soak that thing in salt water for 15 minutes for 3 days straight. And I can almost guarantee she's going to be walking way better, maybe not even limping. Maybe the swelling will be gone and she'll be good to go. Obviously, turn her out on some clean pasture. Don't let her go back to the mud that she got it from. And then lastly, the best thing you can do is pray about it. God is probably trying to teach you something, or maybe even teach your family something. And it's not going to there's issues in this world and there's trials to draw us closer to him. So this might not even really be a big, scary thing. This might just be a way that God is drawing you to himself. So learn from this experience and let him grow you through it. Okay. I'm sure there's some other things I could mention on this specific topic, and I'm going to definitely ask for some questions toward the end. But I wanted to put a little word in for genetics, because, well, genetics and management, but genetics is something where a lot of people don't think about it. A lot of people just think a cow is a cow, right? Yeah, it's true. It is. But there are so many different cows out there. There's so much different genetics out there. I mean, it's the same as people, pretty much. You look around, everybody's different. Everybody's got different color hair. Everybody's got different color eyes. Everybody's got a different build. We're all created in different ways. Same thing with cows. We have some cows that maybe have better grass genetics, some cows that maybe have better grain genetics, some cows that maybe have better, natural genetics or strong genetics. We have some, you can just look at it. We've got beef cows, right? They don't produce much milk. They just produce beef and beef calves. Then you got dairy cows. They mostly produce milk. So that's obviously a big difference in genetics. So I would say genetics is, it can be hard for people to understand. I'll endeavor to break it down simply. Most people don't realize how important this is, but you are going to only have, if you're going to only have 1 or 2 cows for your family, this is a very crucial thing. And I would say it should be in your top 3 reasons to get or not get a cow as far as requirements when you start looking for a family cow. So I'll tell people this all the time. People will ask me, or they'll say, what should I look for, when I'm looking for my first cow? Or I'm going to mention a few of these things I've already mentioned to you. But one of the first things I'll say is make sure you know the cow, know who it is, right? Who it's from, what its ancestors were like, what kind of history has this cow lived, right? What kind of life has this cow lived? And so Um, just for just for a reference, there are some cows out there who have been bred aggressively over the years to live on concrete and to eat nothing but grain and to produce tons of milk. I mean, these cows will produce sometimes 100 pounds a day or more. And these cows, their bodies have learned to produce that from grain, from unnatural products and trashes and things that are being fed to them, and also from a lot of estrogen shots and hormones that are being poured into them constantly. And these cows are like machines. They just crank it out. Maybe they have 5-6 year life expectancy, and they get their milk out of them, and then they're done. And then they get another one. They get their milk out of them, and then they're done. So it's that cycle. And that is the farthest thing from what you're going to want as a family milk cow. You're going to get a cow. You're going to naturally keep this cow. That cow's not going to work. I've done that before. We've gone through our school of hard knocks over the last 16 years of farming and raising dairy cows and working with them. And believe me, we've bought those cows and we've then tried to switch them over to grass-fed and, all these different things. And they literally just lost condition by hand over fist and quit producing milk and usually just died, or their bodies just couldn't handle it. And one of the big things for that is their genetics, right? Same thing with grass-fed cows. You can have a cow that for generations has been raised to produce good, high-quality, family-friendly, healthy milk on just 100% grass. And most of these genetics actually come from New Zealand and other countries who have not really perverted their dairy industry as much. So like the New Zealand dairy industry, it's actually required to have mostly grass-fed and to have them out on pasture and those things like that. So you do want to find a cow that's got those healthy grass genetics. Now, what are a few things you can do yourself to evaluate or look at a cow and say, maybe this one is right, or maybe this one is not right. So one of the simplest things is, do they have a barrel stomach? If their stomach is barreled out, if you look straight at the cow and you see this barrel, then a lot of times they're going to do a little bit better on grass. Are their legs shorter? Shorter legs, bodies closer to the ground. Is their chest deep? All of those things are going to help them with grass, because the long, skinny legs, the skinny little bodies, those are designed for those estrogen shots and those, that grain to just shoot through into the udder. And they're also tall, so their long udders can stay up off the muddy concrete, right? So that's just a quick and easy way for you to look at a cow and evaluate, maybe this one would fit, maybe it wouldn't fit. Obviously, your best bet is to know the farmer and to be able to ask them questions and to be able to look at their herd and see what they're doing. What is their vision? Your best bet is to get a cow from somebody like that. Also, there was a pretty well-known author named Gerald Fry back in the day, and he wrote a lot of books. He did a lot of work on cows and genetics, and we learned a lot from him. He kind of came alongside us and worked with us some years ago. He's since passed, but he still has some good information out there and some good books. But one of the things he would say is, like, you can look at the outside of a cow and sometimes see what their genetic tendencies are. So just a quick and easy thing to say is, like, the adrenal swirl, which is kind of like a cowlick. It's like a swirling spot of hair on the middle of their neck or their back. The further forward of the shoulders it is, the higher the butterfat in the cow. the further back of the shoulder blades it is along their spine, the lower the butter fat in the cow. And that basically means, like, when you have a jar of milk, how much cream do you have in that jar? You know, it could be some cows we have will produce a quart out of a half gallon. And then we have epigenetics, and that is the small things that you can change, right? So that's, for example, like for easy example, it's like your eyes are blue, but how blue are they, right? Are they sky blue or are they almost green? And that's epigenetics. So you have genetics, and then you have these genetics that can be slightly tweaked by management. So the best way that you could tweak those genetics, obviously, is get the calf at the youngest age you can and manage them the best you can, or get them from somebody who has managed them the right way throughout their life. So management is a big thing, and you can get a good cow with great genetics and manage her wrong, and she will die. One other thing to think about is, I mean, when you get a cow, you might pay top dollar for a really great cow, but you're learning, okay? And you're probably learning from experience a lot of times, right? So sometimes it might actually be worth it to figure things out on some cheaper cows before you go for some top-notch cow. And so that's a big thing to think about. Also, another thing to think about is toxins. So when you're thinking about natural dairy cow, natural health, there can be some toxins out there. There can actually be a lot of poisons and a lot of dangerous things on your farm for a cow. And maybe you've had great success with goats and sheep and horses, but cows don't respond to different plants the same way that they do, right? And so just a quick list: trash can kill them, especially metal, wire, nails. That can cause stomach blockages and all kinds of different things, metal poisoning. Plant and tree toxins can kill cows. All of these are cautions you should take. And the other thing to consider is parasites. The easiest way to treat parasites is put some basic H in their water once for 3 days, and then again once 10 days later. The obvious clean water, minerals, grass, hay, that kind of stuff. But basic H you can find, I think it's a Shackley product. So if you were to look up like Shackley, you could find it there. They actually sell it by the 5-gallon bucket. And that's what I use for deworming my cows, because it's a natural product, and it's made by natural ingredients and stuff like that. And I was going to talk to you guys a little bit about calves, because maybe a lot of you guys are looking to get into the family milk cow thing, but you don't have $5,000 to just drop on some perfect cow with a calf by her side, right? So you're going to want to get a baby heifer calf, and you're going to want to raise her up, and then you're going to want to breed her, and then you're going to want to freshen her, and you're going to want to train her yourself, right? Make her part of your family. And so the best way to raise a calf, first and foremost, is on the mother all the time, 100%. If you can raise that calf for 8 months on the mother, that is the best. She's going to have time to build her fat cells, to fill out her fat cells, and also to build that bacteria in the gut that I was talking about, so that she can thrive and handle the grass and the forage of your property. But if you were to get your own little baby calf, make sure she's at least 10 days older or older, so she's had all the colostrum, and then start bottle feeding her, 3 times a day or twice a day, however often you want to do it as far as your chore time goes. But make sure as you're doing that, she is building that bacteria in her gut, right? So make sure she's kind of getting some of that, maybe some chaff hay, maybe some apple cider vinegar here and there, maybe some things to kind of help her, but also give her access to grass as soon as possible. So they'll start nibbling on grass at like 3 weeks. So they really, you really don't want to lock them in a concrete little cage for 6 months and just feed them milk and grain the whole time, right? So, I have a few more things I can talk about, but I'm happy to answer any questions anybody might have at this time. So I think we'll just kind of go around, and when I see your hand, I'll point at you, and then I'll try to answer your question. Yes, sir.
We had a problem with some soil we got. They sprayed, you mentioned hay many times, and they sprayed it was an organic place, and somehow they must have gotten some other hay in that was sprayed with graze on it. Well, it affected our tomatoes, our plants in the garden a lot. Luckily, we only used a little bit and never used any more again. And I'm sure that because you keep mentioning hay, so you need to know to get clean hay, correct? That has not been sprayed with a chemical.
Yes, sir. Yes. So the question was, he's talking about hay that he has gotten in the past that had chemicals or something in it that was really kind of messing up his farm. Yes, you do have to be so careful about where you're getting your hay, what your source is, and how they're raising it. You really have to trust the farmer. You really have to know who you're getting it from and figure it out that way. You can't just look up hay on Craigslist and go grab a bunch of hay because, unfortunately, most people out there spray poison all over their fields all the time, and they don't really care about it. And so we, who are trying to keep a natural family milk cow, can get shot in the foot sometimes by not doing our searches well. A good guideline is organic. A lot of times, if you can stick with organic, that's going to be pretty good. I mean, the word has been perverted a little bit over the years with the USDA patenting it and everything, and kind of allowing some pesticides here and there or whatever. But the best thing is just check with the person that you're buying the hay from. Make sure it's the right quality and what you want. Yes, ma'am.
All the antibiotics and stuff in the manure. So just as they're spreading it on the fields and stuff like that, all that antibiotics is going on their fields as well. So know your source for that.
Yes, she's mentioning chicken manure as fertilizer for hay fields. That can be a big thing, and so yeah, you do want to check with them on that as well, because a lot of these farms, these conventional chicken farms, they're feeding horrible stuff to their chickens, and if they're spreading it on their hay fields, that's going out into the hay fields as well. Yes, ma'am, in the purple shirt. You could use that, and they would probably eat it, but I would not use that just because the oil is just a straight fat going straight into them. The flax seeds, they're going to have to digest, and they're going to have to work that down. They're going to have to find the fat. They're going to have to kind of figure it out themselves. So you're giving them something straight. It's almost like an infusion of fats just straight into the cow. Yes, ma'am. The question was, could I talk a little bit about vaccinating our cows? So we do not vaccinate any of our cows at all. I do not advise anyone to vaccinate their cows. Reason being, I wouldn't get vaccinated myself. You're taking a non-organic product that has been created in some lab, and you're shooting it into an organic animal that God has created to be naturally kept. And so, so any of these vaccines, I would steer clear of myself. But that's really just a choice that you are going to have to make yourself. There are so many people out there who have different opinions, and you can read books, you can read articles, you can ask people questions, and there are people out there who say, well, at least I need brucellosis, so I'm going to get that, you know. So I'm a purist, but I don't necessarily disagree with some of those people who have their strong reasons. Yes, ma'am. The question is, do I test my dairy cows for viruses like leukemia or different things like that? And the answer is no. I do not like testing. That's another invasive thing. That's another thing that's like, why am I gonna put this, why am I going to put this non-natural thing into my herd? Why not just raise healthy cows, have healthy cows? And that's a big thing. I mean, culling is big, especially for a farm like ours. We are trying to aggressively move towards a better cow, right? And so we do a lot of culling. I mean, if we have a cow who has some kind of issue or this or that, we take her out. And that's why I was saying before, I'm a purist when it comes to antibiotics. Rather than give a cow antibiotics, if she's got an issue or something, I will slaughter her, or I will get rid of her. So yes, sir. Okay, so the question was, what size of a pasture am I going to advise for someone who's just trying to get one milk cow, their first cow? It depends on your forage. It depends on what you have in your pasture. So you could have like a pasture that was cropland for the last 100 years and it's been raped and it's been perverted and it has nothing. I mean, it's sterilized. It's pretty much like a little petri dish, where they just pour their chemicals on, they put their chemical seeds on, and then they grow their little plants on top of this sterile piece of land. So something like that is going to take you years to farm that up and make it quality forage for a dairy cow, especially. So I would say it really depends on your forage. But if you have like average, pretty good, lawn grass, I would say I would get a cow with maybe 3 acres. And you can get one with 1 acre, but you're going to end up feeding a lot of hay. I would say, especially in this region, if you want to have 1 cow per acre, you've got to have some high quality grazing land, and you've got to be moving a lot of cows through there, on a quickly rotation. Was there one other person over here? Yes, sir. Is there a simple, quick way to look into the animal and tell what the parasite load is on it? Yes, there is. A couple of things are condition. I mean, if you're seeing more than 3 ribs on a typical grass-fed Jersey cow, dairy cow, there's some sort of issue there. Another thing is waste. How is the consistency? Is it consistent with the time of year? Because the waste changes with times of year. If they're just sucking in a bunch of clover in the spring, they're going to be spewing out a bunch of watery waste. If they're eating a bunch of hay in the winter, they're going to have big solid waste. So is the waste consistent with the time of year? Is the waste how it should look? Also, is the cow having a hard time? When a cow's going to the bathroom, it should be plop, 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 done, right? It shouldn't be labor working through it, trying to get it out, right? That can be another sign of parasites. So those are two easy things, but I would just say, maintenance wise, just hit your cows every 6 months with some sort of yes, ma'am. Question was milk fever. Can I talk a little bit about milk fever? Yeah, I was actually, if I didn't have any questions, I was actually going to get into that a little bit. So milk fever is basically and simply explained. Yes, sir, I'll get you next. Simply explained, milk fever is when the cow has her calf. A lot of times she has a heavy calcium draw on her, right? And so if that cow is calcium deficient in any way, she can then start to pull calcium from the bones to produce her milk that is high and rich in calcium. And that can cause her to just get weak and go down, usually die pretty quickly, unless you put a calcium IV in her. Now, the best thing you can do is avoid it by managing her correctly. So when a cow has a heifer calf, especially, the minute that calf comes out and that cord pops, she shoots all the calcium that calf needs for its whole life into it. So that calf gets a shot of calcium from this cow. And then right after that happens, she's starting to produce milk, which needs a lot of calcium, right? So you don't want to hit that cow too hard with milking her out. Okay, a lot of newbies are like, oh my goodness, she's going to get mastitis. She's so big. I got to milk her. I got to milk all of it out. And what you're doing is you're just creating more of a calcium suck, right? So I would say, especially with a heifer calf, I don't milk a cow out all the way when she has a heifer calf for 3 to 4 days. I leave some in the tank, right? And I would say for a cow, you really don't have to worry about mastitis until her milk comes in, right? Which is usually 7 to 10 days. So I would say that's a big way you can manage it better. Also, when your cow has a bull calf, you don't have to worry about it as much. It can be an issue, but obviously she's not shooting that calcium into him to the extent she is into a heifer. So I would say management is the best way to keep away from it. If you do get into it, the vet can, put an IV in her artery and drain some calcium in there. I know how to do that. I've done that with cows in the past. The main thing, if you're doing it yourself, you want to watch for is just watch her pulse. Because if you get that going too fast, if you're holding it too high or something and it's going in too fast, you can cause a heart attack. So you do want to go real slow when you are draining calcium into her or something like that. But usually you give her a bottle of calcium within less than an hour. She'll stand up and be fine. Yes, sir.
What if you have land that has good forage, but there's an area that has a lot of rocks and hard ground? Would that hurt their hooves?
So the question was, what if you have land or a pasture with good grass, but there's a section that has a lot of sharp rocks or very rough ground? Would that hurt the cows? And it really depends. I would say you need to watch your cows, see how they're handling it. Cows are pretty smart, even with those toxins that I mentioned. A lot of cows will kind of, or they'll eat it once and they'll have a bad stomach ache and they'll be like, never mind, So cows are pretty smart. They'll probably walk around it. If it's I would say if it's a lot of like sharp metal and barbed wire or different really, really gnarly stuff that could really mess up a cow, you would want to fence it out. So I'd say that's really up to you. You can kind of watch your cows, see how they're handling the area, but usually I will fence out areas that could be dangerous because a cow hits barbed wire and you've got a cut teat or a cut udder or cut hoof, and then you're dealing with infections. Yes, sir, with the black baseball hat there. You were raising your hand a minute ago? Yes, sir.
Do you ever recommend feeding grain for calves or when your cows are in milk?
Do I recommend feeding grain for calves or when the cow is in milk? No, I do not feed grain at all. I'm 100% grass-fed. We have been for years, and we just don't do that. That's another thing. We're a purist in that area. You can. A lot of people do. A lot of people will get organic grain, if their cow's condition starts to drop too much during the winter or they're not getting enough milk during the winter. I would advise if you're not getting enough milk during the winter, just feed her more grass, feed her more hay, chaff hay or alfalfa pellets or the grass-based feeds that you're giving her. Don't try to supplement with grain because grain is high in protein and different things, but it's not what the cows are naturally designed to digest and to eat, Yes, sir. The question was, if you're going to do a single cow, do they do better with a companion of some sort, like a donkey or something like that? It really depends on the cow. There are a lot of different personalities out there. Like I said, cows are different, And so when you get your cow, you might want to feel her out. Maybe she's really antsy. Maybe she needs something, and that could come in the form of another animal, or it could come in the form of another cow. Like maybe you have enough space to have a little steer out there that you're raising for beef, or maybe you have a horse or a pony or a donkey or a pig or something that she can hang out with. So it's really really up to you. Yes, sir. Is there a breed I would suggest for first timers? I would say no. I would say I'm not big on the breeds. I'm big on the quality. So I would say mixed breed might even be better. Like just a hodgepodge of some high butter fat, high quality grass fed cow. Doesn't even really matter what she looks like that much as far as color or how nice her horns are or whatever. She's not going to be a magazine cover cow. She's going to be a family milk cow that's producing what you need and that is taking care of you and your property and all of that. Yes, ma'am. Oh,
So we have an area identified for pasture land, but it's on the 6-degree incline. I'm worried that it might be too steep, like maybe during the winter time or when it's real wet. And then can you go into the minerals, what they need?
yes. So the question was, we have an area, he has an area on his farm that he would like to graze that is very steep, incline. And could that be an issue during the icy time of year or when it's really wet and rainy? And the other question was, could I elaborate on minerals and what I use for minerals or that kind of thing? Yes. I think in the instance of the steepness of the property, same thing I mentioned to the young man about his rocks, right? You are going to want to watch your cows and see how they're handling it. There are some cows that have the strength of shoulders and hips and legs to really handle those steep inclines and lean and shift their weight, and they do fine. So I would say watch your cows, and yeah, maybe on those icy days you graze them in a different pasture. Yeah. I would say, yeah, like I said, if it's all steep and your cows live there all the time, your cows are going to be strong. Your cows are going to be able to handle that steep grade. If all of your pasture is steep, your cow's always steep. It's just like, a runner. If he runs 10 miles a day, he's going to be able to run 10 miles tomorrow. He'll be fine. The same thing with my minerals, just to quickly go over that. We use Redmond Selenium 90, and I always mix a little bit of kelp in there because kelp has higher iodine, and they never put enough iodine in the minerals. And low iodine in a cow can cause a lot of health problems. So, yes, ma'am, with the blue shirt.
Is there anywhere that you recommend to get your cows, like starting out, and where did you start out getting your cows?
Is there anywhere that question was? Is there anywhere that I recommend to get cows starting out? Where did I get my cows? Those are the questions. I mostly raise my cows because we have a big enough herd. We just raise heifers. I do get my cows from a grass-fed cheese dairy, and it's like a seasonal place. And you can find these grass-fed dairies different places. I'll source cows from there sometimes, but I would say the best thing is to look around and ask around people and get on a waiting list. Like our farm has a waiting list. Come on by our table, scan our QR code, get on our email list. Look at our website. Ask if you can get on our waiting list. We have heifer calves for sale regularly. We have cows for sale sometimes. It just really depends. But yeah, I would say find a good farm, or even ask somebody like me, because I might not necessarily have a cow for sale, but I do know a lot of people who have pretty good cows, so I can probably find you one. Yes, ma'am.
Would you recommend like the first pattern, like starting with maybe a cow who's already been bred and has already produced, like healthy calves, or would you recommend starting with like a first timer that we can just kind of raise and get comfortable with us and then maybe?
So the question was, what would I recommend for a first-time cow owner? Would I recommend a baby calf that she raises up herself, or would I recommend a cow with some experience? So it really depends on you and how adventurous you are. If you really want to get into this and you're really ready to go and train a heifer, and it's your first time, it's her first time, there's something about that, you guys can do this, right? You can go for that. A lot of people do. But a cow with more experience is easier, is definitely easier. Yes, I would say a cow who has had a few lactations, she's been milked for a few years, she kind of knows the routine, she knows how to give birth, she's got some history as well. That's really helpful for a beginner. So I think it's really up to you and what is your, yes, sir. Yes, so I have a mineral feeder that's like a circular hard plastic container with a rubber flap on top. And the cows will put their nose under, lift the rubber flap, and take the minerals out from underneath there. So what I'll do is I'll take a 50-pound bag of selenium 90 and I'll mix 15 pounds of kelp with that. I'll mix it up real good, and I'll keep it in a sealed container, because the minute that selenium 90 hits the oxygen is the minute that it starts to deteriorate as far as the potency of the minerals, right? So keep it in a sealed container and put out as much as your cows will eat in about 3 to 5 days. And just keep putting it out every 3 to 5 days in that container that's keeping the rainwater off, obviously. And that's what I do. I just mix it, put it out, and they take as much as they need and when they need it. Yes, ma'am.
Raw land that's been used for agriculture for years. You can't put cows on it yet. Like 2 years from now, you can put cows on it. Is there a cover crop that you would recommend planting? I know that when I put cows on it, I can move them around and start assisting plants. But to put them on in 2 years from now, is there something you would recommend?
Yes, so she's asking, she's got some like conventional land that she needs 2 more years before she can put cows on it. Is there a cover crop or something I would recommend to put on there? In the meantime, I would say it's up to you. Anything organic. I haven't done that very much, but one thing I will say is get something on it. So, sure, it's not organic land yet, but get something out there. Get something putting some, disruption in there. I don't know, whatever you want, pigs, horses, sheep, get somebody to rent it and graze it here or there. Put some calves on it and sell them at the stockyard or something. I mean, just start to disrupt that land, start to work that land now, opposed to waiting 2 years and just kind of planting cover crops and just kind of letting it do its thing. Yes, ma'am. The question was, what kind of forage would I recommend for a pasture, or if I was going to plant a pasture, what would I recommend to plant in there? Well, I do not plant very much on my pastures. Most of the seeds you need are going to be in the ground. And so it's a matter of the fertilizer and the working the land and disrupting it and getting different species on there and just working that land and pulling out what you want to come out of the pasture. And I think you can really plant, I would say, a mixture of things. You could do, clover, you could do alfalfa, you could do timothy, you could do bluegrass, you could do fescue. That's the cheapest, obviously. So it's really kind of up to you of if you do want to plant, what do you want to plant? And but I don't usually plant. Most of the time, I just try to manage what's there and build it up. And you'll see so many different species coming out. The more you work it, the more chickens, the more cows, the more stuff that you have on there. Yes, ma'am. Do I ever dehorn? No, we do not. Yes, sir. Question is there if there's mastitis in one teat, should I worry that it would spread to the other teats? It could. There's that possibility. I would not milk that teat and then put that milker on another teat or on another cow without washing it, or washing your hand. So, I mean, there's just basic things you can do to be careful. But in general, if you have mastitis in one teat, just milk that teat out really good. Just keep milking that teat out really good. Keep giving her what she needs to heal herself and get better from the mastitis, and you're good to go. Please come by the table over at the vendor area, and let's see. Yeah, I have a few more time for a few more questions. Yes, ma'am. How many times will I breed a cow before she's kind of good? So I would say I will breed a cow to the end. I mean, a cow is there for you and for your family and to give to you. She's a beautiful picture that God has given us of giving, and her whole existence is to bless you. So I would say never stop and just be like, oh, she needs a vacation. Oh, she needs to be fixed. Oh, she's just my little baby. Just keep managing her. Yes, ma'am. Yep. Yeah. What do I use for flies was the question. I do not use much. I mean, cows that are very, very extremely tormented by flies, most of the time, it's another health issue. It's an underlying health issue. Maybe it's parasites. Maybe it's something. They're a weak cow, So, yes, ma'am. Yes. So the question is, when my cow is dry, what can I feed her to keep her coming in the barn that's not too high in protein? So are you putting kelp in with your salt? Oh. Well, I would, first thing, I would take the salt block away, and I would mix kelp with salt and put it out there, and she will start. Another thing is you can keep doing some alfalfa pellets, just small, just very, very minimal amount. I would say, like, if you're giving her, say, 15 pounds when she's in milk, give her like 3 pounds, but just kind of keep her, yeah, just to keep her coming in the barn, keep her friendly with you. Yes, sir.
Just got one cow. Do you recommend hand milk or machine milk?
So if you just have one cow, do I recommend hand milking versus machine milking? My answer to that would be it is going to be up to you. That's a personal choice for everyone. If you have the strength and you want to hand milk, you can do that. That's fine. And you're going to maybe save some money because you aren't going to have the expense of a machine. You're going to have you're going to have a workout every day that you get to do. So that. So do I think there's a greater chance of bacteria in the machine versus hand milking? No, I think both can be done in a very clean way, and it's up to you to keep your cows and your operation clean and healthy, and to manage it correctly. Yes, sir.
Do you trim your dairy hooves?
Do I trim my dairy hooves was the question. I do sometimes. If they get too long and they start to limp on it or they start to walk funny, you can kind of see it growing out. You can trim it back. And I do from time to time. But you shouldn't have to. With healthy cows, healthy hooves, you shouldn't have to. And I mean, we have a concrete driveway, and we walk our cows across the driveway pretty regularly, and that helps a lot, you know, or walking them on some gravel when you're bringing them down for milk and different things like that. They'll scuff them up. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry? What booth are we? So the speakers next to the big barn, the speaker area. So that's where we're at. And our father's farm. Yes, our father's farm. That's the booth. Yes, ma'am. Sorry? Sorry? Yes. Oh, yeah, we're going to shut it down here and now. But if you guys have any more questions, feel free to come by the booth and we will chat and get information exchange and all that kind of stuff. Thank you very much.